So, my dear friends, we are back again. It's the end of June, beginning of July. The rains have already coming, and perhaps the temperature is also a little better than before. We are anxious during the rains always. As you know, this month that is welcome. We welcome the rains, of course, but then when it becomes too much, many of the people suffer a lot during the rains. The roads are damaged, the houses collapse, the trees and perhaps the other things also cause a little harm. So we take all these things into consideration, pray for good rains, of course, but at the same time that we may not be damaged much by the heavy downpours. The month of July is a beautiful month of rains, of course, and also many other celebrations that we have. We have starting with the feast of St. Thomas, 3rd of July, and also during the month we have so many other celebrations of Our Lady, the Mount Carmel, 16th of July, and also the Day of the Grandparents, what is normally celebrated, the feast of Joachim and Anne, the feast of St. Ignatius, so many good things in this month. Let me begin with a gospel message, the message of the week. It's about discipleship. Discipleship is just that we follow Jesus. It's not necessary to connect it with the priests, the religious who follow Christ perhaps a little more closely, but every Christian is a disciple of the Lord. And so today's reading gives us what is the meaning or perhaps the content of discipleship. I find 3 themes that are intertwined, the 3 things that go together in our discipleship. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 10 verse 37 to 42 gives a beautiful explanation of what is discipleship. There are 2 things mentioned there. The first one is, anyone who loves his mother, father, brother, sister is not worthy of me. And it follows up with, anyone who does not carry his cross is not worthy of me. And thirdly, the aspect of hospitality or perhaps closeness to Jesus, that when we shelter, we give hospitality to others, perhaps as part of our discipleship, God Himself gives shelter, gives care, and looks after us. So let me begin with the first, perhaps the pointed directive of Jesus. If anyone wants to be my disciple, he has to leave behind his mother, father, brother, sister, his family ties. In that gospel where Jesus calls the first disciples, there's a beautiful small remark that has been made. When the disciples were impressed with Jesus' call, when He said, come and see, St. Peter leaves his father, leaves the boat, and follows Jesus. That's the implication today. Perhaps it might look very harsh on the part of Jesus to ask us to leave your parents, your brothers, sisters. But what's the real meaning of it? He doesn't want us to leave them as such, to abandon them as such. But then he who loves his mother, father, brother, sister more than me is not worthy of me. So ultimately, it's the love of Jesus that is more important than love of our parents, the love of the human ties, what we call the blood relations. We cannot give up. It remains, it's part of our history, it's part of our genealogy, it's part of our DNA, we may call it. But then, if your love for your parents, for your brothers, sisters is more than that of Jesus, perhaps Jesus has to say that, go back and look after them. Perhaps when you are independent, you can come. And this is the message, to leave behind your parents, brothers, sisters. Secondly, Jesus says, the one who does not take up his cross is not worthy of me. Once again, it looks something harsh. I won't say sadistic as such, but then so hard on Jesus to take up your cross. What's the meaning of the cross? Cross is something that is come into our life, that is perhaps not given or punished as a punishment to us, but something through which God works out our own solution. The cross of life. The cross of Jesus is the cross of our life. And what is a cross? Perhaps there's something that is unpleasant, there is something that is unbearable, but then I have to go through it. If life was a panacea of all the good things and everything okay, perhaps there wouldn't have been any challenges as such. But heroes are made of those who overcome challenges. And therefore, Jesus says, take up your cross. It's beautiful to meditate on the cross. What is a cross? A cross is something in our life that perhaps it awaits that not only that we pick it up, but we love the cross. We carry the cross, we love the cross. And sometimes it may not be our own cross. We are called upon to carry the crosses of others. In that scene of last sufferings of Jesus, when he carries the cross, Simon of Cyrene, he is pulled and asked to take up this cross of Jesus. Perhaps in the beginning he may have grumbled why I should carry someone else's cross. But then we are told it had a lot of soothing effect on him, and he ended up as one of the disciples of Jesus. So my dear friends, I think the cross has much to do in our life. We have to learn to live our personal cross, the cross of our communities, the cross of our families, perhaps what we call a vicarious cross. A vicarious is something that you, on behalf of the others, you take up something so that they have a better life, they have a better existence, they have a better comforts, and perhaps God uses you as Simon of Cyrene to carry the cross of others also in order to follow Jesus closely. The third theme that is there in the first reading of 2 Kings, we find that Elisha is going on his journeys and he is human. He feels hungry, he is tired, and he rests in a particular place. And every time he passes by, he asks the people to give him perhaps little shelter, little water, little food. And so the lady of the house, the rich lady perhaps, she says to her husband, why don't you make a room for the prophet? Because we are benefiting more by the visit of the prophet than he, because he is a holy man. Jesus also tells in the gospel, if you give even a cup of water to these the little ones, it's as good as you have given me. The ones who have given shelter to a prophet will always be benefited, will always be graced with this kind of hospitality that God will give. Ultimately, our discipleship, what's the end of our discipleship? What's the fruit of our discipleship? We would say that God gives us hospitality. God brings us closer to each other and to himself through this opening up of his own house and household to us who follow Jesus. So my dear brothers and sisters, let us take this gospel at heart, that every one of us is a disciple of Christ. And if I would like to come closer to Jesus, Jesus asked me to get little more distant from all those I love, so that Jesus could be my exclusive and only love of my life. And also Jesus asked us to accompany him with the cross of our life, with the cross of Jesus Christ that we carry. And finally, he doesn't disappoint us. He will give us our share of shelter, refuge and comfort, perhaps in a different way, as this theme of hospitality is also developed in today's readings. My dear brothers and sisters, I leave you at this. May the cost of discipleship is very dear, but then its worth is much more. I now take you to the intention of the Holy Father in the month of July. It's a beautiful theme or beautiful intention that the Holy Father gives, that the Catholics may place the celebration of Eucharist at the center of their lives, transforming human relationships. So the intention of the Holy Father for prayer is Eucharist, that we may make Eucharist the center of our life. You know, the Catechism, the Catholic Catechism of the Church in 1362 number says that the Eucharist is the summit, climax as it were, and at the same time the source of our life. This theme comes from the Vatican documents, the Sacrosanctum Concilium, the Lumen Gentium, and they place the Eucharist as the center of our life. Perhaps we can ask ourselves why the Eucharist is the center and the summit of our life. Why is it the source of our life? Because Eucharist is ultimately the body and blood of Christ, which we are called upon to receive, perhaps even every day, when we attend the Holy Eucharist. The Holy Eucharist is a celebration of Jesus' own passion, death and resurrection. And therefore this is the summit or climax of our life. And therefore the Holy Father says, as frequently as we participate in the Eucharist, not only do we receive the body and blood of Christ, we come closer to God, we come closer to each other. So this is one of the best ways of keeping ourselves alive spiritually, by receiving the Holy Communion, by participating in the Holy Eucharist many times a week, not only on Sundays. Perhaps if it's every day, it's much more, and it is understood that through this participation in the Eucharist, we come closer to God and also closer to each other. There are many devotees in our Archdiocese, I know, that there are some who cannot do without the morning Mass, the morning Eucharist, or perhaps participating in some form of the Eucharistic devotions. This is a good practice. Because Eucharist has the healing powers, bodily healing, and also the healing of our minds and hearts, the healing of our hurts. And it's beautiful to see that God does His work. We don't have to struggle. The persons who are devoted and dedicated to the Eucharist find solution to their life that come very naturally. Because ultimately it's not they, but Christ working in them, Christ living in them, Christ perhaps joyful in them, that gives this aroma of a spiritual life and existence that goes beyond human explanations. I just want to give you an information about a certain measure that we have taken in the Archdiocese. What's called the setting up of the Internal Complaints Committee. What are the complaints? Surely there might be many complaints. But this Internal Complaints Committee will concentrate mostly on the sexual offenses. You know, there's something called the sexual offenses that men and women commit, and especially the women and the children are more perhaps the suffering ones in this. And therefore the Church wants to be transparent. The Church wants to be open to say that this is not tolerated. Troubling the women, troubling the children, abusing the women, abusing the children, and also sexual harassment at work is not only not encouraged, it's not tolerated. And therefore the directives of the CBCI and also what we call the Vishala Act of the government compels each of our organizations to have a committee that can inquire on these complaints and also to act upon it further. So we have established one such committee in our Archdiocese, of which we have 5 members. The names of these members are Mrs. Lorna Lobo, who is the convener and the chairperson, Mrs. Sarita, Sister Shanti, Mr. Kantaraj, our PRO, and Mr. Alphonse. And so you see the placard on the board along with the phone number and also the office that is set up, the office address that is set up here in Palana Bhavan. And so anyone in the Archdiocese, among the religious, in the institutions, in the churches, in the parishes, anywhere, perhaps who have experienced harassment, sexual abuse of children or women can complain to this body, this internal complaints committee, and they will approach you, they will ask you how to address your concerns and perhaps your complaint also. So kindly cooperate, kindly perhaps tell others also about this internal complaints committee of which we are serious, and surely if there are complaints, we will have not only inquire about them, also take action against them. On the 29th of this month of June, it was the feast of St. Peter and Paul, the two pillars of the church, and we had a beautiful Eucharist in the evening at 5:30 p.m., at which Eucharist Bishop Henry D'Souza of Bellary was also present along with our Vicar Generals, many priests, religious, and at this Eucharist, which we celebrated in honor of Saints Peter and Paul, we also explained the continuity of the church, the charism of the church that is constant, and at the same time the foundation or the institution of the church that has come almost 2000 years ago. And so we said that in our Archdiocese, what the Holy Father and the Holy Mother Church is anticipating what's called the Jubilee of the Church, the Jubilee of the Incarnation or the Jubilee of the birth of Jesus. 2025 years was inaugurated. This event was inaugurated in the Archdiocese. I wouldn't say the Jubilee itself, but the year of preparation leading to the Jubilee was inaugurated on 29th of June. And we go ahead now with the 2 years of preparation, rather 3 years. This year is the year of learning. The next year, 2024, is the year of praying. And the third year, that's the actual year of the Jubilee, 2025, is going to be the year of the Jubilee, the year of pilgrimages. Perhaps pilgrimage is always the year of hope. And so with these perhaps small events or small happenings in our Archdiocese, we go ahead for the greater and more challenging things. On this day of the Jubilee also, I inaugurated what's called the UCAT Bible in Kannada. What is UCAT? UCAT is a foundation that brings out as much as possible to get closer to the youth material, especially the biblical, scriptural, and also perhaps many of the teachings of the church are brought to the youth. And so this UCAT, U stands for youth, CAT stands for catechism. So the youth catechism book, or rather UCAT book, which is concentrated on the biblical aspect and the sayings, the quotations on the youth. It's a beautiful book which gives us different aspects of the youth leadership, the youth experience, the youth involvement in so many things, and all these channeled in the form of the Bible quotations that are there. So this is the UCAT Bible in Kannada that we inaugurated on the feast of St. Peter and Paul, which is open and available for the public and especially the youth. I have requested our parish priest that the youth in our Archdiocese, perhaps this could be a book for them that gives them especially the power to belong to the church, and at the same time the affection of reading the Bible and becoming aware of the teachings of the church. ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಸಹೋದರ ಸಹೋದರಿಯರೇ, ಈ UCAT ಅಥವಾ ಯುವ ಜನರ ಬೈಬಲ್ ನಾನು ಜೂನ್ 29ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಿನ ದಿವಸ ಉದ್ಘಾಟಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಸಂತ ಪೇತ್ರರ ಸಂತ ಪೌಲರ ಹಬ್ಬದ ದಿವಸ. ಮತ್ತು UCAT ಅಥವಾ ಯುವ ಜನರ ಧರ್ಮೋಪದೇಶಕದ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಈ ಬೈಬಲ್ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಯುವಕರಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇವಾಲಯದ ಅಥವಾ ಧರ್ಮಸಭೆಯದ ತತ್ವಗಳು ಹಾಗೂ ಹಿರಿಯರ ಮಾತು ಮತ್ತು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸೀಮಿತಪಟ್ಟಂಥ ತಕ್ಕ ವಿಷಯಗಳು ಈ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾಟ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬಿಡುಗಡೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಯುವಕರು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಯುವ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವರ ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ದೇವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟುವಂಥ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನು ಅನುಭವಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಮತ್ತು ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕದ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಮುಖಂಡರಾಗಲು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗುವುದು ಮತ್ತು ಹಿರಿಯರು ಕೂಡ ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಇತರರಿಗೆ ಬಹುಮಾನ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಉಡುಗೊರೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ಮ ಯುವಕರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಮುಂಬರುವಂಥ ದಿವಸಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಜೀವನದ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮುಖಂಡತ್ವವನ್ನು ಕಲಿಸಿಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗಿ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. The World Communications Day was close last month of June, and in our archdiocese there was a beautiful exercise that was done. Poster making from the youth, from the colleges, and the theme was the communication of the heart. It's a theme that is beautifully expressed in the words of the Holy Father, because the heart speaks to another heart. The heart is the center of our life. The heart is the center of our emotions and all experiences. The heart of our center of our memories also, we can say. So therefore the Holy Father, speaking about communication, says that ultimately communication is the heart of our communication itself. What I mean is, without the heart you cannot communicate with others. Perhaps you might have machines, you might have gadgets, you might have robots, but then ultimately the human voice, the human heart, the human feelings is what is expressed. So therefore this was expressed beautifully by our youth in the form of posters, which were very revealing. When they explained it also, like the icon, every point or perhaps every figure, every picture that was there held some meaning for them. And I think they profited by it. And I would be very happy if our communication center carries out this kind of, I would say, the expressions, speaking with the heart, communicating with the heart, because ultimately truth comes from the heart. And that's the message of the Holy Father that was brought out beautifully. And I also attended the function where our youth expressed their ideas in the form of poster making. On 8th of July, there's going to be a special gathering in the Palna Bhavan of what we call the secretaries of the parish pastoral councils and parish finance committees. You know what's a PPC or PFC, Parish Pastoral Council and Parish Finance Committee. Last year we formed new bodies. Many of the parishes elected their members, some were nominated, some were ex officio, and I'm sure that the parish councils are being convened in the parishes. The parish finance committees are consulted in the matters and affairs of the parish. The parish council is the pivotal body of the parish that decides and takes decisions about many things in the parish, regarding the liturgies, regarding the use of the Bible, regarding the family situations and so many things. And also the parish finance committee takes care of the accounts of the parish, the money matters, the financial matters, what we call the property matters, the tax matters. So this is the way the people are involved in helping our church pastors in order to keep up their accounts and at the same time to organize their parish well. And so since the parish council secretaries are very important, the role of the secretary is almost the role of the one who is perhaps the most important person. The secretary is the one who sends notices to call the members. The secretary is the one who perhaps sees that the meeting flows well with a certain agenda. And so the secretary is the one who makes the arrangements for the people to sit, to come and to be comfortable. And the secretary is the one who writes the reports, takes the attendance, writes the reports, and also communicates to the members perhaps any important issues. when something is to be done, that sometimes it does happen that maybe there is something that the parish priest has not said properly, or people have not heard properly his announcement about a certain important issue. And this perhaps is necessary to be communicated by the parish council secretary to the members, so that they in turn can take up in their own wards or areas what has been discussed or what has been communicated to him. So therefore the role of the parish council secretaries, parish finance committee is very important, and that's why we are convening a meeting of all the parish council secretaries and parish finance committee secretaries, perhaps along with the deans of the area, and if possible we have said the parish priests and their assistants also could attend, so that they know what we are communicated to them and what they will come and perhaps report to the parishes and continue their good work. So 8th of July, I make a request to all the parish council secretaries and parish finance committee secretaries to come for a gathering here in Palana Bhavan. That will be from 9 to about 1 o'clock. And you can also ask your doubts, make your clarifications, and there are so many things that you can do. When the parish council secretaries are active, the parish councils also become active, and that in turn perhaps gives a good performance, a good organization, a good running of the parish itself. So I welcome all the PPC and PFC members for this seminar on Saturday, 8th July to Palana Bhavan. Along with these perhaps things that are going on, as I have told, the year of the Jubilee 2025 is just another 2 or 3 years ahead. But we start the preparation. Big things need big preparations. Small things perhaps need small preparations. If I'm going on a big journey, I need to prepare it months ahead. A house celebration, perhaps if a marriage is in the house, the couples will prepare a year ahead. So also for this Jubilee of the Incarnation, that's 2025, we begin with this year, what's called the Year of Learning. Year of learning about Jesus to the scriptures, and especially to the documents of the church. And therefore, in order to give a glimpse of the documents of the church to our people, they are there in our books, in our libraries. Everyone has heard what's called the Second Vatican Council and the documents. And the documents were beautifully written by the bishops who gathered together, in about thousands of bishops together discussing, and they brought out these documents. But many of them perhaps they are lying on our tables, in our shelves, in our libraries. So therefore, to bring out to the people the richness of these documents, especially the 4 important documents, what's called the Sacred Liturgy, the Light of the World, Lumen Gentium we call it, the Sacred Liturgy, Sacrosanctum Concilium, then also the Word of God, Dei Verbum, and finally the 4th important document was the Church in the Modern World, what we call Gaudium et Spes. Gaudium et Spes. So these are the 4 documents that we would like to take up and open to the public. And therefore every Saturday from 4 to 6 o'clock there will be a study circle conducted in the Palana Bhavan of this Archdiocese, wherein experts will speak on these documents. Perhaps since these are documents that cannot be spoken just offhand, for each of these documents about 3 or 4 sessions will be taken, and these sessions will be conducted on Saturdays, because we know that the rest of the week may not be as free. And so from 4 to 6 o'clock every Saturday, and you will be happy to hear that it will be in a hybrid mode. This is a new word that is used. Hybrid mode is the mode of the classroom and the mode of also online. So therefore, some who would like to attend in a classroom form and a seminar form, they are invited. And I am told already about 70 to 80 have already registered for this classroom type where the people will be present. The professor or the expert will explain what is the document about, and surely the question, answers, clarification will continue. But this will be also online, sort of televised on your computers. Those people who would like to follow from far away, and with online communications, it's possible for us to have both together. And therefore, since it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that we are giving to the people to open them to the treasures of the church, the important documents of the church, I request you to register either physical, that's called offline, or even online. And you will not regret, perhaps you will regret if you don't attend it, because these sessions are going to be beautifully prepared by the experts in Bangalore, not only from our archdiocese, also those that are coming from outside. In fact, one of the bishops, the Bishop of Shimoga, Bishop Francis Serra, who is an expert also in the Vatican documents, who will also be one of the speakers at the later stages. So please, I request you to register and attend these sessions on the documents of the Church.
The Shepherd's Voice, which is being presented by our beloved Archbishop, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, the Archbishop of Bangalore, who takes so much of interest and concern in order to bring the various topics, the contextual aspects, in order to inform, educate, and catechize all of us, the priests, the religious, and faithful of this vast archdiocese. And I'm sure you are enjoying this program, Shepherd's Voice, and I request each one of you to share with your other colleagues, friends, and family and relatives, near and dear ones, so that everyone in this archdiocese can be more closer to listen to the Archbishop on this Shepherd's Voice, the weekly feature. My dear friends, as I've always told, that this is a wonderful platform wherein we can connect to the Shepherd of this archdiocese, wherein he brings in the interesting topics in order to increase our devotion and love towards God, and also to know the spiritual matters that concerns our faith. In a very special way, you are most welcome to ask your questions, queries, and you can send them to us at archdblr@gmail.com, and you will also see our mobile number in and through which you can connect with our media center, Ave Studios, and the Archdiocesan Communication Center. Please do write to us your feedback, your opinions. Thank you. Continue to watch and continue to share with others.